don't like to talk, but they are in support.
Yeah, no problem.
In support. Thank you, sir. Did I miss something?
By the way, the ordinance was updated in 2017 and applies to five codes.
Can you say that aloud to the
Okay.
what you say to?
No, the ordinance was updated.
We need to
in
pull the screen down.
2017, and it applies to the private codes also.
Do we need to pull the screen down?
We have an example.
I've adjusted the presentation
Thank you.
just because,
Ms. Gabbard, you have an asterisk for it?
I do.
Turn the light back on.
Oh, he's talking.
Lights on, please.
You told me.
I'm
Just
sorry.
be really mad. You want
I got it. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna make adjustments, kind of based on some of the stuff. Yeah, you should.
Is it in here?
And also, it's a new concept, so, Chair, Mayor Pro Tem
Yes.
Seats, I want to thank you so much,
You're definitely welcome.
for this opportunity. Just like the other gentleman, it can be very discouraging. And sometimes we can just say, no more, but it's worth it. It's worth it to make sure that the community knows what's going on and what we have to offer. So I thank you for calling this meeting at this time. I'm gonna ask if everybody would kind of, before I begin, take whatever you think you know or understand about me or the committee and set it aside. A lot of times our biases, what we heard, what we think we know, prevents us from actually making a sound decision that's in the best interest of everybody, because we think that we know something about someone, something that happened 30 years ago, something they heard, said, whatever. So if we can put that aside and take a look at what's possible, I think that we'd be good. So first I want to ask, how much time do I have? Because I want to be conscious of that.
Feel free.
Okay, good deal.
Well, not, no.
I'm a preacher's daughter, so. Okay. All right, so, what we've merged here is a,
Generally, we get that screen down. So we can see it on both screen.
as you all already know, our city has been in crisis for quite a long time.
Appreciate
And
you.
part of that had to do with the school system under threat of shutdown and all of these other issues. I'm not going to go into a deep presentation about the crisis of racism, because most of the people here are experiencing it on a regular basis, and they are dealing with their own personal emergencies, running from one fire, putting out one fire to another, or having family members with those issues as well. And finally, the United States has admitted that it's an epidemic. So I want to talk about, the Fresh Start Race to Equity 911 project and the resolution that we put on the floor asking this body and the city council to approve a racial equity department. Just going through the process, we did first try to, meet with the committees. Then I sat down with the city manager. He did ask me to connect with some other entities and individuals. And one of those that I did support going to and I trusted was Commissioner Singleton. So as you see, he was also one of our members. So here we go. Then we went to another legislative committee meeting. We've gone to several committee meetings. I just want to let you know that. So this is not the first presentation. So, just so you know who I am, because some people says, you know, who is she and how dare she even ask to be paid, right, to do this work. I am a Race to Equity convening partner, and I was given that opportunity through the Michigan Roundtable of Diversity and Inclusion. From that experience, I became a certified racial equity healing stories coach and consultant. I started out as an educator in 1999. I've been a trainer and I've been a facilitator in that capacity. I'm also on the Raising Up Healthy Babies Task Force, achieving birth equity through systems transformation partner with the Benton County Health Department. I'm an author, publisher, biographer, playwright, performer, and I'm also a Peace for Life.
Excuse me, I don't want to stop you, Ms. Gavin.
Yes,
Wait
ma'am.
for the chair. He needs to hear this.
So one of my roles was the business management teacher at the high school, and so I taught the students how to set up businesses, you know, how to create policies, different things of that nature for the businesses. So I have that background. And I also, prior to that, also worked with a management services company for contracting with the government in Washington, D.C., where I work with the National Institute of Health and the Family and Youth Services Bureau and the Department of Human Services contracts. So we have some amazing committee members. Some people said, who are they? I want to give them an opportunity to cut in anytime because I'm not, you know, I want to give them that opportunity to do that when they feel it's best for them to talk. So Marvin Haywood, Fresh Start Children's Garden, he's done a lot of amazing work with that. Also making sure that our students have healthy choices. We have Emile Sloan. She's a Peace for Life Youth Ambassador. She helped not just this year with the committee, but she also did some protesting and some planning last year when they were fighting for their schools. So she's been very active in the community. And I'm gonna let her talk as well. And then when I finish this, we have Gwen Swanigan, who's known all over the country, Atlanta, Detroit. She works with racial profiling. She has 2 organizations, but she works with the Sharp Foundation. And then she's not here today, but we are also working. No, not Gwen. The next person. Yeah, I know Gwen is here. The next person who is on the contract agreement or the service agreement is Marilyn Ross Golden. She's a long time, you know, amazing decorated teacher, Black history teacher, and social studies teacher, has been in the district for over 30 years. And we're looking for her to help with strategic curriculum development consultant, meaning we will create a racial equity training curriculum with our history, not just Black history, but Benton Harbor history, you know, all of those things embedded into the training modules as well. So she said that she's 110% in, and she's been working with us, you know, before this committee even started. And then Commissioner Ron Singleton, I put him as emeritus because I did respect the advice of the city manager, you know, in addition to the other entities he asked me to speak to first. I went to him. And, you know, when we got started, we said we won't move forward on anything if we all don't agree on everything. And he said that he agreed 100% on everything that we were doing. So we did decide that got a little too complicated. So he's an emeritus member. He's not with us at this time as a member, but he said that he still supports us in what we're doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Emile so that the student leader can talk.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emil Sloan. I'm a 10th grader at Benton High School. I'm also a Peace for Life Youth Ambassador. I'm part of the Racial Equity Committee of Benton Harbor. And what I like most about our committee is that we're trying to bring together our committee into one to better our city, and we will be trying to fix the broken justice system. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So as committee members, we believe very strongly in youth leadership. We're not in charge. The youth have a voice, and they have an equal voice. And so she wrote what she wanted to say. And I told her that she can cut in at any time because she has the same, amount of authority as I do in this presentation. Did you want to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening to the commissioners, city manager, and all of you that are present right now.
Real quick,
Go
can
ahead.
y'all see that if the lights are on? I just got word that YouTube is pitch black.
Oh.
So can y'all see this?
Yeah, turn
Turn
the
the
lights
light
on.
on.
Turn
Hit
the
it
lights
back.
on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Wait, Edward.
Too late.
Does it control all of them? Or can you just turn?
No.
Yeah, that's, you can still see.
Can y'all
the
see
lights
that
on.
still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For, like I said, I give honors to the commission for allowing us to come here this evening. And truly one of the things that I've always believed in, and that is the community, the city of Benton Harbor, because I have been on this journey for quite some time. I remember when in 1996, they talked about diversity and inclusion, and they talked about bringing everything together. This was in 1996 when they talked about diversity and inclusion. So they created the building down on Main Street. They created a lot of various entities. And throughout that period of time, they were able to gather information to find the weakest and the strongest points in the city of Benton Harbor, Michigan. Since that time, when they talked about diversity, there has been a lot of diversity. But in my opinion, there has been systematic things that have been put in place, even when you all were stripped of your power under Joe Harris. There was things that were taken away from this city through an emergency manager that was the pride and joy of this city. And as we move forward into the 21st century, we're here now where we're dealing with a very crucial time this next 8 years for the city of Benton Harbor. You members as the commissioners, we are not regulated by the state, the feds, or the county because this is a home rule municipality. And I say that to say this, any decision that comes up out of this commission, because the commission is the ones that set the tone for the city of Benton Harbor, Michigan. I say that because as we move forward, I've took up racial equity and I've took up development with the Michigan Roundtable of Diversity and Inclusion. I have a certification in that field of study as well. I've sat on multitude of boards, various other things when it comes to trying to move a city forward. But when you look at the situation from the area of talking about diversity and inclusion, they closed down the skills center. They closed down the tech center. This is when they said they wanted to do diversity and inclusion. And everything that has helped the inner city in years past has been took out of the inner city. And I say strategically based on the fact, the three things that run a community is your school board, your city government, and your churches. They have to all be on the same page in order to move the community forward. One of the things that I've noticed is that they do a grand scheme thing, which is called a divide and conquer. We have a lot of qualified people in our community. There's a lot of resources coming through our community. And when those resources come through our community, if we don't have an understanding of how to grab them, they have been caught by other individuals. And so I say that because this next 8 years is crucial. When we talk about the improvements that went on at the Benton Harbor High School, those improvements were put on to go in line with the next phase of others' projects. And so I say that because when we talk about racial equity is only giving back those things which are needed for us as a community. Go ahead,
Let
Mr. C.
me interject, because we almost sound like keeping a real radio show.
That's right.
You know, stated that a few times, and I understand that. And they gave us the illusion of inclusion.
That's right.
And the more content they gave us, it became a con.
Hey man, so you've been following them. And you know what? I am glad you said that because I understand one thing. If you don't have an understanding of what is from what seems to be, you will have individuals that may come in. And whenever it's some money, I've been coming down here for 20 years. If there's some money coming in, they'll have a plan to spend that money because we don't have a plan in order to get those funds which are being allocated for the conditions of this city. There's a lot of dollars that's on its way down. And you have individuals in line that's going to make decisions. And one of the things that I disagree with, you know, whether you agree with me or not, when you talk about an authority, why would I want to give you an authority over a house that I got and tell you, well, come on in my house and you can make decisions for my house, you know?
Common sense don't cost you a quarter.
Oh, wait. Thank you. And that's all I'm saying. I mean, it's just keeping it real because right now we're in an era where if you don't keep it real, you can't serve two entities, man. And I remember a time when you came on the radio show because they had tried to attack you for doing the right thing. When they come at you, you know, and that's the thing that really upsets me because when you talk about passion for this city, man, you know, the motto of the Fresh Start Children's Guide is to motivate, inspire, and change the mindset of the people. We have a lot of people in this community that have been strategically downbeaten. Alcohol, drugs, stores on every corner, stuff that you don't see in other communities that they're not going to allow. And that tax money ain't really worth the minds and hearts of our community and our children. And that's why we talk about racial equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say this, and I do appreciate the passion. And I know there's going to be a lot of passion, but if we can kind of like stick to this agreement, because what has happened is, I don't think there's nobody here that's saying that you're not passionate about what you believe in. The hang up and the secret emails and people who might smile in your face all the while trying to take your place, they'll say something different now. So let's kind of, if we can concentrate on the agreement, because that's where we can work through whatever we need to work through, because honestly, the thing that I believe we've been missing and been over is racial equity. You have fallen NAACPs and all these other kind of groups that say they're helping, but when it comes time to help, they don't do nothing but fall back and then give them some juice and snacks and they quiet for the rest of the hour. So I think that if we can get to the agreement part, so we can kind of go through it, and if there's something that needs to be worked on or vetted or changed or however, we can begin to move this forward and not tuck it in our back pocket and act like it never happened.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do that. So
I agree with my colleague. We will not stick it in our back pockets, but one thing more than anything else, there are policies that go along with the procedural ways in which committees are structured and other things that the chair seems to be neglecting to even mention or talk about. And there have been no secret emails, just receipts of facts that you just happen not to be included in because you don't answer them.
As a point of clarity, this is not my presentation.
Exactly. But I would like to give them a guidance, a map.
That's why I said that we need to discuss the agreement. So if the agreement comes with them needing to have a formation or however we got to vote in an ordinance to change this or change that, then we'll give her the steps and guidelines to do it in public. But obviously, because this young lady continues to come, ain't nobody said nothing.
We passed what she brought forth the first time that went through
There's
committee.
no
Did
argument.
you
have
not,
to-
Miss Gavin?
There's no
Which was
argument.
for a committee?
Let's speak on agreement, please. Thank you. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
Thank you so much. And so what I'll do
Well,
is,
sure, hold on, I have to make a point of clarity.
hold on. Let's go to the agreement.
Before the agreement, there was a thing that was said to the audience that had to be rectified, that the clarity, in terms of home rule, it does not vacate you from following the laws of the federal government or the state. And in terms of your own sovereignty, in terms that you cannot be forced to do anything that would be harmful to you, but you still fall under federal law and state law. So I want to make sure that point is clear, because that was misled.
What part are you talking about, though?
The young man actually, it was said as a home rule that, you know, that you're independent, you don't have to do with the federal government and state, because you're a
Okay,
home rule.
we're not,
Yeah.
You know what I mean when I
Say who
home
stated
rule?
it.
we're not gonna be tossing the frisbee back and forth.
Gotcha.
And let's please have some decency and order. If y'all wanna do what you wanna do, call your own meeting. Do me a favor, let's go to the agreement.
I'm gonna cut to the chase.
That's it.
So I had to establish credibility because I wanted to make sure that people understood that we are professionals. Okay, so this is, and in regards to your question, the body did agree to a resolution, did pass a resolution, and in that resolution, I was named as a consultant, not a volunteer. And that resolution was passed in October, and we've been working ever since. Okay, so let me get right to
Question
the
for you.
agreement.
Excuse
Yes,
me.
sir.
Real quickly,
Yes, sir.
question for you.
Yes, sir.
After the understanding of that agreement with consultant,
Yes.
what was your understanding of it?
So my understanding is that I would be able to connect with the city manager and possibly negotiate what that looked like. And I was under the impression that, you know, I would get an office. That was Commissioner Henderson's request. But then when I sat down with him and he was asked about the office, he said no. And so then I realized that at that point, there may be some differences. So let me go ahead and try to, you know, work the best way that I can without the office. Then I contacted the city manager's office. No, I contacted the city clerk first to, you know, discuss finances. She said she wasn't exactly sure how that worked. I need to talk to the city manager. Then I contacted his secretary. She set up a meeting. Then that meeting got postponed. During that time, we were still working because we understand the urgency of this. So, you know, even without, you know, having those funds to do the work that we've been doing, then I contacted them again to follow up because I did not get a follow-up date. And by that time, it was the day before the Day of Action strategic planning meeting. And I sat down with the city manager and the director of economic development. And long story short, I was hit with a lot of rebuttals. I asked if they were, you know, if we could discuss the, you know, consulting fees or even just helping out with the event. You know, the event hosted, you know, 120 people. We fed them. We took care of childcare, you know, all of that. And he said, we'll just see afterwards, right? And so at that point, I realized, okay, I need to give them you know, something in writing because this is not working. And, you know, the best way to kill something is to defund it, right? So that's when I submitted an email with the service agreement with the terms in there. And I'll get into that as well because I want to be transparent. I don't want to hit anybody with, you know, any secrets because it's not a secret. And so
So basically
yeah.
coming to us as consultant for the city that was per resolution.
Right.
So that's why you're coming to us. You're not coming as somebody just walking off the street.
No.
We voted you in as a consultant
Yes.
for doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Was that?
You don't remember that you did that, Pro Tem C, Commissioner Chairman C?
With all due respect, I'm trying to give
It's
the
a question. I'm
audience.
trying to understand because I've been involved in all this.
I'm trying to give the
Point of order.
audience clarity on why this young lady is here, and those who have not been to the meetings or have not seen YouTube, I'm trying to give them clarity on why this young lady is here.
I'm trying to gain some myself, so carry on.
Thank you.
Okay, so I submitted that, and I asked, if anybody had any questions about it, wanted to talk, I made myself available, and then, we had that meeting, and, thanks to you, it was, put on the floor. So we're here at this point now, and I want to make sure that people, if it's okay with you, I want to make sure that people are able to see what we're requesting, because, just for clarity. And it will take a paradigm shift. Always won't open the doors. You talked about the NAACP and all these other organizations. The problem with the NAACP and all these other organizations is that they depend on taxpayers to try to find some disposable income to finance the organization. And then, what you're doing is you're asking people, many of which who are in poverty, to give extra money to try to keep something going in order to protect them. And what we're saying is the system and the services that we already pay taxes to is supposed to protect us. And what we understand is that it doesn't work. And so this is a paradigm shift that will allow us to align ourselves with the municipality that already receives funding to provide services, and then to help encourage those services to identify a racial equity improvement action plan so that they can improve services with respect to the African Americans in the community who have been left out routinely. So that's the paradigm shift. Now with that, it costs money, right? The budget, the recommended operating budget that we requested and is negotiable is for $100,000 for that department, okay? The consultant services, it was around $50,000, which is about the same that an executive secretary makes at the school system. The curriculum consultant, who would provide a tangible piece of curriculum that's worth thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. If you ever went to the school system, they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a curriculum. We have access to the best, and that's only $750 monthly. We're looking for $750 monthly for the committee members. And we're looking, and the teacher liaison, we would like to give her a stipend, $500 at the end of the month, at the end of the school year, for her services as well. Now, what that entails is coordinating with the students on a regular basis to teach them advocacy, to teach them leadership, to get them involved in government, and creating and having a lot of other meetings and big events with students, with adults, strategic planning and different things of that nature. The consultant services would be youth leadership development. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to stop right there.
Okay.
Because,
I know that's pretty small, but it was a lot of services.
no, actually, I was just gonna stop right there.
See all this being done.
I wanna just ask a question,
Yes, sir.
and just to make this public, these numbers are not etched in stone, are they correct?
No, I've been trying to negotiate those numbers, try to find out, what are the issues, if there are any issues. Yeah.
Okay, if I may, pro tem seats, I think there was an issue because of the thing I keep talking about, process. Because this is planning and economic development, and when we're talking dollars and cents, it goes through personnel and finance. We're working on a budget. We're still operating the whole overall budget from a budget that was set from last year. And it ends from June to June. We are just now going into another budget that hasn't arrived yet, but we're getting ready to prepare. No other committee talks about or gives any type of consensus to move anything forward unless and it's that committee that handles those type of things, such as personnel, which does hiring, give consensus to send something to the full body in the form of a resolution to okay an RFP because we want this work contracted out. We never said that we wanted or needed something for an RFP or to contract anything out. And I'm just disheartened, to be honest, about what's actually going on here, because I think you're a wonderful woman, does fabulous work.
And so with respect to that, being that I submitted, you know, the initial idea in the summer, even prior to the city manager being here, and I spoke with, in good faith, spoke with commissioners who may understand this process. It seems to me that in February, if, you know, interested individuals wanted to, you know, make this happen, they would have connected with the city manager, connected with each other, and like Commissioner Seats, who says, okay, this is the next step, let's do this. It seems to me that before we ran ourselves, you know, into the ground with no budget, that it would have been very supportive to, you know, help make this happen, you know, much sooner. That's just my, you know, my concern. Yes.
So I just got the resolution, and the motion was unanimous, and it says now therefore be it hereby resolved, the mayor and Muhammad and the city commission support the establishment of a racial equity reform committee of 5 members under the consultation with Illinois Government to ensure ongoing strategic support for racial equity education, relief, recovery, and reform for Benton Harbor residents. The motion carried unanimously on the roll call vote. So my next question becomes, if you're not able to get funding at this time, will you guys be willing to do some type of fundraisers to get this established, or we can help you or support you and somehow get it? And could you just give us a little bit of the work you've done already with this committee
Absolutely.
that has cost you money?
Absolutely. Okay, and so first of all, as you know, time is money. And one of the major racial equity issues is that when we look at African Americans, we ask for volunteer services. We don't take their professional experience, college education, their time into consideration, and we often just look at us, people look at us, especially Black women, as volunteers. That's a major problem, right? And so the first thing that we want to start doing is start looking at this body and others as opportunities to feed back into the community by paying for services. So, you know, my request is that if it's already been established that this is an emergency situation, it's already been established that the services are needed and that the community needs the work done, and it's already been established, which I could establish, which we didn't get to yet, that this is a department that can pay for itself. This is literally, and all of that up there, those are the services. We put on an event, like I mentioned before, with 120 people. And with that, just to be comparable, we, Gwen and I assisted My Brother's Keeper. Their budget, they hosted about 200 and something students that Gwen was responsible for getting there and coordinating those efforts in spite of the turbulence in Benton Harbor area schools. She did a phenomenal job. I helped facilitate. There were a little more than 200 students there. And that event, it was at LMC. That event's budget was $12,000.
14.
Okay, 14. What I saw was 12,000, possibly 14. But I saw about $12,000.
I got the real receipt.
Okay,
from the college.
so from what I received, from my brother's keeper, it was about $12,000. Okay, and so, and they were an established organization. They have, salaries, right? So the event itself, to put it on, was 12,000. If you calculated the dollars of the coordinator who had a salary, right? The executive director who had a salary, and the support people who had a salary, you'd be looking at thousands. Not to, but we got nothing, right, to put on an event, and we had to make it happen, right? So, when you look at just event planning, and not to mention the surveys and the documentation and evaluations and the press release and creating the web pages and all of that stuff, that's thousands of dollars. Yes, sir.
Where did the majority of that money come from? Where did it come from? I know the city gave a donation.
No,
No.
the city gave nothing,
That's pro-
not a dime.
I'm talking about my brother's keeper.
Oh.
That is-
The annual summit, you asked me questions about that.
Okay,
since
so
I was
that-
the
What we talking
overseer.
about? No.
Yes, the My Brother's Keeper.
These two
Teen
separate
Summit.
events?
Yes, they were.
So the Teen Summit, but our event, which had half, right? We didn't have 250 students, we had 120 people, but it was from the community, it was from people from outside of the city, across the state. We also had a strategic planning session, phase 1 only, right? And we're looking to do a teen empowerment hour in conjunction with Sharp Foundation to follow up with panelists with those students. So all of these things, you're talking about, this is a major discount. Not to mention, there's a difference, and I'll be real brief on this. There's a difference between a for us, by us planning session when the people who are planning it intend for the ideas to go through, as opposed to a planning session from an entity whose intention is to divide, conquer, and devalue. Get your ideas, let you think it's happening, and then right when you start doing well, pool the funds. This is a completely different opportunity for the people.
Okay,
Yes.
if I may,
Can I
Program seats.
say this real quick before you go there?
okay,
And on February 3rd, 2020, Kalamazoo hired a young lady by the name of Dora Bonner, who I know very well,
Mhm.
to have a
what's
position
their
of
population?
diversity, equity,
What's Kalamazoo race, population?
director for the city, Kalamazoo. New position is a city manager, is in the city manager's office, meant to promote city commitment to both within the city organization, within the community, to ensure diverse, equitable, and inclusive opportunities exist for all who work and live in the city of Kalamazoo.
How many people? What's the population?
We heard clearly from the community during the Magic Kalamazoo process to strengthen diversity and inclusion of our organization is a highly priority. The Kalamazoo residents feel strongly that reducing bias, increasing acceptance among all people have enriched the city as a community as well. So, and
How much larger than Ben Harbor's Kalamazoo?
that really right there cuts deep. Because when I see other people come in here and we head shake and shake hands, we saying Benton Harbor's on the move, we growing.
We are.
And we need this and we need that, and welcome, come on in, y'all. But then now we're talking about how big we are.
No, Pro Tem seats.
So what I'm gonna do right now, Dr. Thomas had his hands up, waiting. And then we're gonna go to Commissioner Adams. But Kalamazoo has hired somebody.
They can afford to.
But what it says is they included it in the 2020 budget. So, I mean, we big enough to give tax breaks.
Mhm.
We gained a water customer though, where there was none.
We're big enough to give tax breaks.
Gotta keep going, so we can do this.
So we're big enough to do everything else we need to do. Dr. Tynes, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I just,
So please stick to the agreement, please.
yeah, and that's where I wanna make sure if I'm, just a scientist, so it's like and prior experience in running diversity down in Detroit. But my issues are that looking in terms of charter and looking at the agreement and the resolution. So this has to be directed through the chair also toward the city manager, because it is my understanding of the charter that the commission doesn't do any hiring. And then I also read the resolution. There was a resolution of support or intent, but I didn't see any financial obligation or tie that was connected with that resolution. And therefore, if it was, it would be out of order in terms of the charter. The other thing that I'm kind of more clarity on trying to understand is that, okay, what we've been presented in terms of data was really sort of more of a contract with an individual, but is it a contract with an organization or individual, and will the organization function regardless of whether the individual is hired or not? Because the commission is not in a position to hire any individual. That has to come through the city manager. If you're going to create a new body, normally there is a history that's established, a work history, and that represents and other things can be done as if the body. Otherwise, you have a group, a research group that comes together and formulates and makes moves and has support from municipalities and other groups. So again, from the city to the city manager, does the commission, according to the charter, has the ability to hire? And can you clarify, I saw a letter of intent in terms of resolution, or was that a letter or resolution to hire, and is it for a committee or an individual?
Thank you, Dr. Trines. The commission has the ability to hire our 5 employees.
Amen.
We do, we hire our 5 employees. And that
By
position
vote of
falls,
majority.
that position falls under, if it was to become a department, that will fall under the city manager's hiring or discretion. What was the other question?
So one was that the city commissioner hiring just employees, because that would be an employee position unless you create a department and then put that under the city management. The second was that, looking at the paper, is it hiring an individual or hiring a firm or a contractor? What is this, what we're looking at? Is it, because right now it looks like an individual and not a corporation or a company or consulting firm.
I believe we're hiring a consulting firm. I would say consulting firm or contractor, is that correct?
Contractor, consultant, they can be used interchangeably.
That would be an individual. A consulting firm is different.
Consultant.
It just has one individual down there and one amount, 50,000 for that individual, and then 5,000 down for as a down payment, and then also clause for
Which we also said that those prices are.
right, and then it also says in the thing that there's basically also a part of no oversight.
Would you read that at that time? If you would please, sir, just for the second time.
Okay. Section 31, except as otherwise provided in this agreement, the contractor individual will have full control over working time, methods, and decision-making in relation to provisions of the services in accordance with the agreement. The contractor individual will work autonomously by themselves and not at the direction of the client, which is the city. However, the contractor will be responsive to reasonable needs and concerns of the city or client. That's 31.
May I address
Yeah,
that?
could you speak
Okay,
up, please?
absolutely.
Thank you.
So very similar to, when you have consultants, if you had like even a lawyer, there are things that, of course, they are going to have to do without working as a staff person. So if you're an independent consultant, there is work that you're going to do as an independent consultant, but when it comes to budget, different things of that nature, you're going to have to submit those invoices and that budget to the city manager and work in conjunction with him in that way. So that's, that's what that looks like.
Do you guys have grant writers?
I'm glad you said that. So here's the thing, like I said, you wanna have a paradigm shift. What you want to do with this racial equity department is leverage the resources of your city so that those systems are taking care of your residents. So the city has a economic development director, right? So she has a community block grant dollars, $400,000 a year, right, or more. And so what you want to do is you want to start thinking about how to use these systems to work for the people. The city can take some of those dollars, right, and hire a grant writer or train the director to do that, to do those things. And then within that grant, identify projects that match the Fresh Start project. So now, and can even, share resources with Benton Harbor schools or other entities who have a similar goal in mind. So what it's doing is, as I see, like on the second line, you're streamlining services. So instead of everybody working in different silos, doing the same thing, wasting money, you're saying, okay, we have these strategy sessions with the community, and we say, okay, this is what we want to do. You can do this part, you can do that part, and we're not overlapping. Just like when we had our meeting of the minds event, we had to pay for the food, but we partnered with the Career and Technical Education department with Benton Harbor High School, and the media teacher video for us, and the hospitality management class, Emil, not only helped MC the event, but she also served as a hospitality management student. So it's ways to streamline these services and do things smarter instead of, having people do stuff that's not in their realm of expertise, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Commissioner.
I want the community and everybody here and the chairman to know that what's going on here has nothing, not anything to do with MBK. This has nothing to do with My Brother's Keeper. It has nothing to do with One Love Global, other than I do have a question for Ms. Gavin, because I'm probably the only one that's privy to knowing that she sent you a document for the thought of employment in the form of a consulting job. I noticed that you never answered the email, and nor was it an offer, but you never answered the email, and I'd like to know how that went, if you wouldn't mind telling everyone.
I don't know where that's relevant.
Okay, that's fine, that's
But
fine.
in regards to.
That's fine, I just don't want,
And I did answer the email.
okay, I want,
I'm not understanding it.
okay, it's okay. I'm just saying that to say that they started something, and what this community experienced during this summit was an overall summit that happens once a year in whoever community is chosen. But we do little things throughout the year. And they were coming down to do a follow-up with no cost to anybody, anywhere. Their travel, their time, their volunteers. One Love Global does a host of other things. Working for all of the universities in Michigan. And I wish that we could have followed suit more to put together something similar to what's being presented here today in a better drafting. Because this is something, the things that I've heard you say are actually things that we, the commission, has been working on. There's a wheel that's already invented that doesn't need to be reinvented. We just need to put things in place, such as the Planning and Economic Development Department. We've been trying to add a name to it, which is sustainability.
Similar to St. Joseph.
And add some grant writers. Do you know that the block grant dollars cannot be utilized to pay grant writers? I mean, it's just some things we need to become knowledgeable of before.
But seriously, with all due respect, her personal business has nothing to do with this.
That's not, it's nothing personal. It's the same thing. This is
Well,
where it all created from.
If somebody when the city manager came up here and asked for a job, we didn't ask him, was he offered
You asked him
another
everything
job?
you wanted
Can
to.
y'all get back
We
on
did
point,
not
please?
ask him about his personal business.
Okay, let's get
We're
back to
talking
it.
about this, and let me say this,
Well, we might be hearing from the foundation too.
let me say
The
this,
lawsuit.
let me say this, please. Miss Gavin, Miss Gavin,
This is a wonderful idea. Before the worst.
I apologize because I didn't bring you here to get browbeat. I brought you here to do the same thing as everybody else. We're working through problems in order to get something done. Some people have come before us 9, 10 times until we got it right. I just want to get it right because we need it. And I am not seeing any of these people going out here fighting when people get fired illegally. Barely see them getting to the courthouse or anything else. So if you got time to do everything this committee is doing, of 9 people, then go ahead. But I ain't seen it. So what I'm saying is we're gonna stick to this agreement. Let's please stick to this agreement. Mr. Haywood, if you're talking about the agreement.
That's all I want to say. See, I think the greatest thing is to have an understanding of what is from what seems to be.
Exactly.
And that's what we have to have. So we have to stick with what was brought to the table, and anything that is not relevant to the situation at hand is what we have to just leave out. And that's what I think. And we appreciate you opening up, but a lot of times you have to really understand what we're talking about.
I wanna,
Conclusion of it.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Cease. This is different than My Brother's Keeper. My Brother's Keeper is in support of this. As you can see, this was the executive director of My Brother's Keeper Michigan's comments about the work we're doing. She signed the petition, and these were her personal comments. Okay, so we're in alignment. We know what we're doing here. But there are some things that we offer that outsiders cannot necessarily offer. They can support. We can provide, have alliances with these individuals. But when it comes to the needs of this city and what's going on with the school, we have that in place.
Okay.
So you said
this is what I want to do kind of real quickly.
This is our, we're pretty much
all right.
close.
Let me say this real quick. What I want to do from about 8 o'clock on is we want to start the procedure. We want to start the process in order to getting this done.
Thank you.
And finalized, or getting it to a vote. And if you don't have 5, you don't have 5.
Absolutely.
But it's amazing to me that we can fight and
Point of order
and laugh about keeping a club open till 4 in the morning. But somebody talking about fighting for rights of young kids, we got problems with that.
And volunteer freely.
And I'm with you. Let's keep going.
I appreciate you. And here's the thing, this pays for itself. If the city is courageous enough to put those dollars in on the front end and sees that it needs to happen now, because there's some major moves going on this year that if we stall it, it's going to be challenging to get in front of it. We're playing 20-year catch up on a 20-year plan. And we have to, get the residents involved in what's possible for them. Even if people disagree with it, we have to have a contingency plan for our residents before, gentrification is happening, but shut off notices and all of these evictions and all this stuff is happening, right? And so we have, and the summer is coming, people have to have something to work towards or they're going to turn on each other, right? And so this is, very serious. And I'll give you one example, damage control, right? Having this in place for damage control alone can save millions. There was a state representative who put on the floor at the State House an amendment to forgive $10 million in debt for Benton Harbor area schools. But because we weren't aligned strategically, and he said he wanted to do it in the name of Fresh Start, which is our initiative. But because we weren't aligned strategically and didn't have those buses going up there to that, like we do for basketball games, right? And we didn't have the city, the school, everybody. That was a missed opportunity to get behind that amendment, millions of dollars, and get other, representatives speaking that language so that we can now put that on the table when Whitmer was backing off. But he was standing there without us, right? And so there's a lot of opportunities that comes from developing those strategic alliances on the front end, as opposed to just waiting. And so I will yield to you. This is not, the presentation I intended, but I wanted to be flexible for what you were
Please,
looking.
I just want to get it moving.
Yep.
Commissioner Henry, Dr. Times.
I'll yield to Dr. Times right now.
She's yielding her time to Dr. Times, Dr. Times.
Yeah, no, Chair, this is, again, going to be going through the city manager. Just want to make sure that everything is decent in order so it could be, that is going to be a benefit. But want to make sure that I'm clear that when it comes into grant dollars coming in, there are restrictions and standards that are applied. So right now we have a legal possible breach, as we know, with the whole brownfield where a grant was given to a demolition, and then they wanted to switch it to rehab, but you can't do things like that. It has to be resubmitted. So I'm saying, is that the same thing here? So if grants come in, can they be shifted around and used, or do they have to be requested for that given purpose? And can you bring in an entity in terms of municipality as a profit-making venture to make it sustainable? Or if one becomes part of the municipality, my understanding, I don't know if you can a municipality have a body that's profit-making other than performance, providing services?
I wouldn't say that profit-making. I mean,
We have to do that for sustainability. You got to generate income.
well, we economic development has grant dollars that come in. The police department has grant dollars that come in for the police department that are solely for the police department.
Keep it sustainable.
CDBG grant dollars come in to keep inspectors sustainable.
That's not true.
Yes, they do. We have a grant from CDBG that's for the inspector, and that's the only thing they ought to do is inspect CDBG.
So
Tell me if I'm wrong.
I'm chair, so me question.
No, it's federal dollars. It's the grant they give us from CDBG every month, every year,
It's not supposed to be utilized for that.
is only for that inspector. So what I'm saying is, I'll turn to the city manager to ask the question if the beloved city manager wants to answer that. As far as grant dollars being used for what, sustainability?
Right, so I think supplementation versus maintenance, because right now the police departments are maintained by the city and supplemented by grants. So this new entity right now is starting to be maintained by the city, and then to switch over to generating its own income or pulling grants. So need some clarity.
City manager, if you would, sir.
What is it you want, sir?
Can the grants be used for, if this committee gets grant dollars, can it be used for the said practices out there? Said practice and purpose of the racial equality department?
I have not done enough research to understand exactly what they're planning to do and what their funding will do or how it can react. However, when you apply for grant dollars, you have to state the purpose, and they have to go for that purpose.
Thank you.
Just curious, so, just directing you, question to the city manager, to the chair for the city manager. At the meeting of the Lions events, we had do I do it like that?
Real quick,
I just wanna make sure that people understand.
is the problem,
Fresh start
what
project.
I just heard, is this not professionally done, this document? Cause I wanna clarify that, I don't want nobody leaving here saying this document presented was not professionally
Who
done.
said that? Where'd it come from?
Okay, well, I just heard you say professional.
No, yeah, nuh-uh, stop,
I
stop,
didn't understand what you
stop,
said.
that's messy. I said, when he stated something about the grants, the paperwork has to be professionally in order,
Yeah, that's what
or you won't get anything else, which is why we in the shape we in now.
thank you.
I just wanted to make sure, because he said he didn't know what we were doing. I submitted a fresh start, project document. It was multiple pages. And also at the, meeting of the minds, we had a 4-minute overview video, which is available now as well, that covers, I'm familiar that community block grant dollars deal with revitalizing the community. I think Brownfield does too. And part of this project is working to help revitalize like the old school buildings and revitalizing CTE programs and different things of that nature. And then jobs, creating jobs as well. I believe community block grant dollars applies there. It's just a matter of, and I provided that document to the Director of Economic Development several months ago as well. It's really just a matter of reading the document. It's all in there. Yeah.
Commissioner Henry,
Thank
go ahead, talking to that mic, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner.
There's something that I hear us all saying the same thing, that this racial equality board department is needed. I asked, no matter what I ask about this, we all are saying that this is something that is needed. We know through our everyday life, unless we're making $85,000 a year, then we know that these things affect us in some kind of way. And I also know that our budget is tied up real tight. So, but I'm always going back to the billionaires and the millionaires that are in our city. If we want this department to be sustainable, and we want them to move on with their agenda, which is admirable that we do this, but let's bring the requests in to our medical marijuana people. They're coming in here to support the soup kitchen, which is not sustainable. They're supporting the Boys and Girls Club, which has billions of dollars offered to them from everywhere, and the bicycle recycling place. We have to ask for what we need. And if it's this department, let them give them a helping hand to start it. But we have to ask for it. Because when I look at the budget, and we haven't touched it since we approved it, not one time. And we touched it since we approved it in June the 1st or 4th or whatever it was. So we really don't know what's going on with the budget because we never asked. We have never asked. Well, I do have the flow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying to us as an elected body, if we're all in agreement, then let's ask those supporting people that got the money to help us out to create this department. I do believe that it does have to have some kind of checks and balances, especially when you're dealing with public money. There's got to be some checks and balances. But do we check and balance Southwest Planning Commission? Do we check and balance
Okay.
any of the other entities that we're dealing with that's hearing, that has not given us the support over decades. So that's my suggestion, is that we come together as we make these special meetings to interview these medical marijuana people, to ask them for what we need.
Commissioner Henry, I want to commend you. I have one of the best statements tonight. Let's get it done. Stop making excuses. If that's what we all want, then we have to tweak the document. Look, the document, there's nothing wrong. That's why it's called, that's why it's a presentation. Because then you can negotiate that which you don't want, or that which needs to change. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what is happening. We're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. When as Commissioner Henry said, and I'm speaking on agreements, when the medical people didn't have the agreements right, they came 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times till they got it right. We're gonna help you get it right.
We hurry.
We're gonna help you get it right. And we're not gonna be distracted. Let's get it done. If $750 is a problem, then we'll change that. If autonomy is a problem, then let's work on that, come up with some kind of language that we can agree upon between the city manager, attorney, and this body. But as Commissioner Henry, our senior commissioner, has stated, we do need it. I mean, we do need it in every aspect and element. When you have jobs who are coming and people are not being hired, how do we guarantee that, Commissioner Henry? Like you said, let's make them do it. Let's make them do it.
Now,
All right.
now, we in a hurry. We need it now.
Right now,
That's all I've been getting. We need it right now.
right now.
Can I, may I?
But are you saying, hold on, are you saying the word now
Yeah.
in a defense to what we don't do it? Or are you saying it now in a place to where you're saying that we're not gonna get it done? So go ahead and say what you're saying now.
Can you do it now?
I'm not finished.
Okay, go ahead, take that floor.
In regards to the gentle lady of the Third Ward's calm explanation of things, we should have those answers to the very questions that she asked. And some of us sit and watch YouTube now. And not only that, recordings can be gotten. Some of it's on paper in our minutes. But the fact of the matter is, when I say it's sustainability department to cover all of these things that Miss Gavin's marvelous crew has come up with, that a lot of us have been working on for years, putting it all in one place, is exactly what I had in mind. And not only that, having better control of what's going on in our planning and economic development department, to where we should know what's going on with our block grant dollars. We should know if we can revise anything. I mean, I'm just like at a loss myself, because there's 9 of us. 9 of us. Remind me of the meeting I was at today, and a whole lot of others I attend. I look around and I'm the only one there out of 9. Out of 9. So we should never point fingers. We should never point fingers at each other. But to have a sustainability department to where we don't have control of who hires the planning and economic development person. I don't think that's right. I think that this commission should have some say-so in that department. And if we have to restructure it within our ordinance or our charter, that's what needs to be done. There's no need in fixing a wheel. We need to fix that and then enlarge it, because it's the engine that will take care of everything that this community needs. Everything. And if we have to add equity to it, so be it.
You got the floor, young lady. You state your name?
My name is Tamaya Clay. I'm a former graduate of Benton Harbor High School, class of 2019, and I'm also a student at Southwestern Michigan College, studying in communications. And I just want to say this. I feel like, we need to keep the need of the people, the need of our city up front. I just want to say that because I feel like tonight, it's a tough, subject, and it's a tough topic, but the heart of it is the people. And I'm here to just share, the average life of a Benton Harbor High School student, because I was once, and I'm still am a victim of, my parents struggling with this equity issue. And I want to talk about the suicidal rates that are in, the state of Michigan and everything. As I speak, I am a certified suicide prevention coach, and the Benton Harbor High School Clinic, they offer this training to not only just the students in Benton Harbor, but also the surrounding communities as well. And we've incorporated this suicidal prevention training on our robotics team as well. And I just want to touch base on it. It's a cycle, and I'm just going to give you guys a story of maybe what an average Benton Harbor student is going through. Let's say it, first things first, is Benton Harbor is a broken community itself, in general. There's a lot of systems that we all know that have failed and that have been, in place and that have not worked. A lot of systems that have not, been of an asset to the people here. And with that being said, we also know that a lot of students and their parents are not, educated. They don't have a college background. The most thing that they have is a high school background. And that is limiting them financially, which also is, and that's a food chain. So it's affecting the children as well. And I'm a child of, parents that did not, unfortunately did not make it to the next level due to some injustice as far as the systems that were in place here. And it is definitely hard for me as, a first generation student in college. It is definitely hard for me. And that's why I'm fighting strong for this program to be here, because it is affecting the younger generation. And I just want to make sure that we're keeping the need of the students and the need of these people up front, because suicide is a big thing. And with the money system being broken, it will lead to our people turning against each other and possibly harming themselves.
She just explained Manchester Bidwell.
And now you just listen to effect of what this sister just said.
That's you.
Do me a favor, y'all. If y'all would give me a favor
Wow.
and give this young lady a hand.
Yes.
I want to say thank you. Thank you.
I have some information for her. Can I give it to her?
Can you just give me 1 second, Commissioner?
Okay.
Give me the floor. Thank you for stepping forward.
Please.
Thank you for saying something. And I would love, and this is one thing that I do agree with, that you are incorporating youth. And that is our future.
Yes.
And when you bring youth to these type of, even with Shaqua and all these other young men that are stepping forward, you are raising our next generation of leaders. Whichever way we got to get it done, we need to get it done.
Yeah.
And we need to get it done in truth and in honesty. Because if not, we're going to sacrifice another generation waiting on somebody else to do it for you. And it's not going to happen. We have been failed politically, from the city to the county to the state to the federal level. And if you don't do something, we don't do something, nothing will ever happen. And they intentionally, I'm gonna say this, they intentionally run candidates who they feel cannot win in order to keep their seats. Because they know that we were not gonna band together on one person and we'll fall out over other people. But young lady, if I could tell you anything, keep going. Keep helping as many children, as many young people as you can, because everyone you help, you're taking somebody where you've been taken and that's to a greater level. I commend you tonight
This,
for being here.
this is so important, and I had no idea that that's what you did. I think you told me that though before. I spoke with the young lady over at HR the other day at Riverwood. I gotta say this because you drove me to. And I wanna encourage you to search history of your government to find out why. You spoke about young parents that's going through something and everything. I want you to search documents. Most of all, I want you to Google Manchester Bidwell Arts and Training Technology Center. But if you search the history, see, some of us down here, we can talk real good, and that's about it. You'll find out if you search history who the doers are and who's getting stuff done. Instead of just mouthing, I suggest search the history. You will find something within Manchester Bidwell Arts and Training Technology Center for the young parents as well. But after speaking to the young woman over at Riverwood HR, I just wanted to know, you hiring patients to take care of patients? And they are. They actually are. Mental health. But before it gets that deep, I mean, if you have a group, or if not, form one of your peers, and don't just let it become voluntary work, call me. Call me. I'll help you with that endeavor.
Well, I understand where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but I'm going based off of what I've witnessed, you know,
For how
as
long?
coming up, as long as I can remember, and as
Okay,
long as I
okay,
can comprehend.
okay.
And you know, I'm a strong believer in God, and that's what He was pulling me to say tonight.
Okay.
So I don't know who needed to hear that,
Yeah.
but I end things in Jesus' name.
All right. Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
But before you leave here, please get the clerk your information, because what we're gonna do is from the city, we wanna hold a team summit. So I think that'd be kind of, and Dr. Tynes' son is also one of the young
And for the
men
life of
with
me,
yourself
we have my brother's key.
that we want to, with this entity, with your entity,
Wow.
and with the Sharp and whoever, it does not matter the name.
It does. There you go.
That would be great, because
There you go.
they already have one.
Yeah, it's the people. So thank you again. Give this young lady your name. And Mr. Andrews, then we'll go to Dr. Tynes.
Thank you. So my name is Joey Andrews. I'm here in support of Elnora Gavin tonight in the Racial Equity Committee. Elnora reached out to me about this committee when she was sort of in the formative stages, and I told her I'd do anything I could to help her, you know, put it together, help bring it about, because I think it's something that is absolutely needed here, given the rate of gentrification that's been occurring both in the the downtown area and the inner cities. The property being bought up at the rate that it is and held without improvement, development. I think that the attacks on the school, threats to the school and the threats to the community have been increasing over time, and that a committee like this being created at this kind of dire straits is a real boon to the city. So what I've been offering is that if there's anything I can do to help with this process procedurally, because I know that Commissioner Adams has brought up that there is a set of procedures that need to be undertaken in order to create a committee like this, in order to create the necessary mechanisms to fund it. And those are things that are honestly, I think, opaque to people who don't sit on the committee and the council. I know all of you understand, obviously, very deeply how the city's rules and ordinances work. And I think to outsiders who want to do something like this, it's not so easy to understand. And so I just want to say that I think, I hope that all of us here agree that a racial equity committee would be an absolute blessing to the city. That would be a wonderful thing to have. And so I hope we can all come together, and instead of saying, what's wrong with it now, what bureaucratic process have we missed, can we say what needs to happen to make this happen? What do we need to do in order to make it legal, in order to make it right, and copacetic to the city charter? I don't think anybody here wants to do something that is outside of the city charter, or that is in any way legal or anything like that. I think that's that's my piece. I want to make sure that if there's anything I can do to help, I've got a legal background, I'm an attorney. I've got a lot of experience when it comes to, property taxation, that sort of thing. So if there's anything I can do to help put this together and, at any place, that's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I would just like to know if Mr. Andrews have our city charter.
I mean, your city charter is accessible, so.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's not an issue.
In there, you'll find policies and procedures that we.
Oh, absolutely.
all follow.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, those policies and procedures can be, I think, very complicated.
There's a
Just cut that-
process to even that.
Cut that off,
Sure.
please. Dr. Taz had the floor next, and then you can stay right there, then you'll have the floor back.
Sure thing.
But I want to just make sure we kind of.
Yeah.
The time is of the essence
You
now,
answered me.
and I want to get this process vetted tonight so we can have it in writing, the next steps we're taking with our city manager here and our clerk and this body. What are the next steps that need to happen so we can get this fully vetted? Is it going to the next committee? Maybe we need to call a couple special meetings, go to the attorney. What needs to happen next? After Dr. Tynes, that's what we're going to start with. How do we get this done?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. And basically, I think summarizing that, I think everything I've heard today coming from this body, that there's support for the concept and that the goal is to tighten up the process, the documentation. The thing is, the organization, you already have an organization that already exists. So you already exist, so that's not the issue. Your issue is forming a relationship is what the issue that you're doing, and standardization of the process and how you're gonna co-mingle and coexist with their. As an individual from 2014, 2017, that there was an extermination, elimination of blacks, particularly black males, in the United States in terms of medical schools. From 2014 to 2017, I had to go over 50 state tour to make that awareness to fight this. So my support in trying to attack the equities is important. I've sat on committees, and what you're trying to do here is important to prevent the gentrification. So, but the thing is that these things can be done with and without dollars. You don't need, the most important thing is that you already have the people energy, people power. And if you can put financial resources, good. I think the Commissioner Henry had a good idea in terms of trying to get the outside sources to support. But you have to move forward in spite of, because in the 60s, in the 50s, there was not that support. So the support is there for the racial equity because they know that the racism has never been eliminated. That right now in 2020, every black person here is 3/5 of a human being according to the Constitution.
Appreciate that history, Doc. City Manager, I don't mean to put you on the spot tonight, but if you could tell us what is your suggestion on the next step that we take, and give us a timeline or time frame that we can start moving this car forward, or moving this can forward, or whatever name we want to put to it. But what do you see the next process that they need to follow in order for us to get moving?
Mr. Chair, first thing we need to do, we have not done our budget. Someone mentioned it earlier. We don't know where the budget is. We're getting ready to start the budget process. I clearly cannot recommend any expenditures until I know what's in the budget. And then we're talking about probably having a draft in April, starting reviews in May, somewhere around there. I cannot make any recommendations on any expenditures other than any, especially sizable expenditures, until I know the budget.
Okay, Commissioner Henry, is there a way that we can start going to these other entities and telling them what we want to begin to make requests on financials to go along with this? And I'm sorry, young man, I'm not bypassing. I promise you'll let you speak. But who do we give that directive to, or do we do that ourselves to see what and how much people are willing to donate or give to get that moving forward? And also hear with the school system, will the school system play a part in the funding, or do they have dollars allocated that they can help with this? Maybe we can partnership.
So, that's of course gonna be up to the school system, but they do have CTE dollars, for various things. It's really just a matter of sitting down and saying, you know, as we establish that formal relationship with the city, saying we would like to partner, these are the things that we are doing that can help the school. How can we align? Because the school does have dollars. They do have CTE dollars. This is about careers and technical education. They have other dollars for training and stuff like that. It's just a matter of, you know, where we're aligned.
City manager, apologize for cutting you off. So after the budget, then what do we have to do concerning this entity?
I would say after the budget, the decision is left to the commission.
What about the contract and the language of the contract?
Can't speak on it until I know what's in the budget. What I can do is do some research on cities that have done it,
Okay.
and I will do that to see what has gone into that process.
So,
But I'll just say this for you
yes, sir.
to understand. What the commission did was make support for the committee. That's what you did. And all of the other things that have happened have been a groundswell that's come to this point.
So you're gonna research it,
I'm gonna research it.
and then when should the body expect to hear something?
I know Jay's working on the budget, so I think you should, out of respect, allow him to do that major task and then come back, because you're kind of adding to him right now.
Well, I don't think he's doing the whole budget by himself in his office. I think he got some help doing that. I hope he does. I mean, I don't know. I know we hired him, and I know he said my calling was one thing, this calling's another, and I respect that. But do you think in the midst of that, you can research this and give us
I
an
can,
answer and direction on what to do?
I can,
Can your office reach out to,
by the next meeting,
by
I should have.
the next meeting?
Yes.
So by the next meeting,
Just remember now, we are going through some major negotiations next week.
with, okay, yes, sir, yes, sir. So not next week, so the week after, we'll have some information on how to move this forward. Is that what I'm hearing?
Possibly, yes.
Possible. Well, by my next meeting,
Right.
Your next meeting, yes.
by my next meeting,
Are you having your meeting in February again? Or
No, March.
my March meeting, and if I have to call, if you come before that, I don't mind calling a special meeting. But I don't wanna hem and hide and play around with it to where we keep coming back and having all these people showing up.
Yeah.
And, but I know you're not that type of person, so I'm not gonna say that about you. But I know in the past, we've hemmed and hawed a lot about a lot of stuff. Young man, you have the floor. Could you please state your name, sir?
My name is Jershawn Clay, and I'm a senior at Harbor High School, and I'm involved with First Robotics and a lot of different programs. I do help out in the community. I do a lot of volunteer work, and I am in full support of the equity program. I really think that should be established. Another thing is if the thing that's affecting our education and our political view of things is our community. So if we're able to fix this community and well, I like to call it restore the roar, because in Harbor, it used to be a beautiful city and we didn't have a lot of chaos and all this stuff going on. And if we can restore that roar, whatever the and by that, I mean, if we can have people take that initiative, take that first step and bettering the city, right? You'll end up with people, like they'll start a chain reaction. Basically, people will see that, oh, okay, this person is wrong. Well, why can't I do it? And so you'll start building stronger leaders and things like that because, like monkey see, monkey do. So if the kids see that there's leaders stepping up to the plate and people that's actually doing things, then that's what's going to make them do it as well.
Did you know that he had a I Am Black History program that's coming up and that's been outstanding? And what he did expose on the national level, because I took it to the national level, that he asked his young people like you, have they experienced racism? And that was like 2 years ago, and each year's done it. And that's how the adults now realize that your age group, that you're actually experiencing racism.
Who was that?
Now, you do that. What your program is going to be on what day? I Am Black History.
I don't know that tonight.
Okay, it's going to be on the last Sunday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
But that's a lot of youth come here, so.
And this is the thing we're gonna let this, do we have to talk about the home property from the county? Is that a resolution that needs to be talked about? Did you bring that? You didn't bring that? Okay, don't worry about it. I wanna thank you, and your group and all. Commissioner Henry got the last statement before I close.
So I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on, Mama Kennard, come on.
You asked me a question.
Come on, Mother Kennard.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'll give it to the seniors.
I thought your co-host took your time.
Amen.
What I like to do is I've seen the youth here that came here and spoke so articulate, and they've got so much to offer. And we should do everything we can to give them no option to fail. Everything that we can do is to make these young people shine. We should do it. And this race to equity, it seems like a beautiful plan. We open up doors for everybody outside of here that comes through here, get big dollars, and sometimes don't even follow through the rules or the regulations of getting the monies. So I think now it's time for us to sort of look within our communities and see all these brilliant young people and start paving a way for them to have access to what they say, if you shoot for the moon, if you fall a little short of that, you're still among the stars. So we want to make sure that our youth get every opportunity there is. And then talking about the equity, this is a predominantly Black community. And I would love this year being 2020 perfect vision, for us to have perfect vision for ourselves and try to do something for ourselves because we can do it. We've got many organizations that is coming forward now. Right within our community, you'd be surprised what we have to offer right here. And we can do it. If we're working outside here, trying to do all we can, we want our government, local government, to work with us and look for every opportunity to make our community shine, having everything that we need to make sure that it happens.
And a young person need to know that this whole equity thing started initially with Reverend Edward Pickney, who went to jail. He went to prison.
Yeah.
She took over, Mother Kennard took over, then brought in Brother Haywood and the young lady then. So that's your history right there. So it's Reverend Pickney, Mother Kennard, and now your generation here. So this has been a movement for a time. And that's your elders that you seek wisdom from.
Well, I want to thank y'all again for coming. Commissioner Henry, I apologize.
I just want to answer your question
Go ahead.
because that gives us the commission avenue. We will be interviewing the medical marijuana in the rest of this month. And as we have these applicants in front of us, if it's what we really want, then that's when we should ask for them to support this initiative. And it's gotta come through the city manager. He's gotta understand, we, the elected officials, have to let him know what is really important to us. And I think that medical marijuana applicants can really support this initiative. And we'll be glad to if we ask them to. But if we don't ask them for it, they'll support the soup kitchen.
Killing food. And I appreciate it, everybody for coming. Thank you for coming, Reverend. Appreciate you for coming. We really don't know what these young people going through. And for them to step up,
I do, they're beautiful.
for them to step up and come tonight is a real big blessing.
Yes.
Thank y'all again. And this is not the last step, but this is the first step. And we will dismantle this quickly. Thank you, city staff, for staying over. Race to equity now, fresh start now. Sign the petition.
All right.
All right, you are dismissed. Thank you.
And you guys come back and keep it on everybody's mind because we are dropping like it high.
I do. We met Benton Township, right? Good talk. Oh, yeah.
Good job.
No, it would give
That thing now, we forget that word now, these people, they have to find out what going on.